Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Inside Track podcast. Fabulous guest with us today, Jude D'Souza, the CEO of Australia and New Zealand for No Standing. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have you on, Jude. Now, obviously, a lot of our listeners will probably be from the UK, so it might be a good time to sort of run through who Jude is, what your background is, and how you found yourself where you are now.
Yeah, my background is actually fitness. So I started off, training while in high school towards the end of it, and fell in love with it all. So while I was studying my Bachelor of Nutrition, I became a personal trainer. And as a personal trainer normally is, you're working you start off thinking, oh, I'm just a personal trainer, but you end up realizing you're a small business owner. So I started learning more about marketing and sales. And when I was a personal trainer, I was doing all right, but I wasn't really, crushing the personal training game until I hired a business coach. So I then hired a handful of employees, started expanding my business across multiple gyms, realized the importance of business coaching and consulting, and then actually moved into the consulting space for personal trainers.
Wow.
So using my marketing and sales skills and my consulting skills of, repeating kind of my successes of personal training and helping others do the same, we were able to build quite a big business for personal training, for consulting personal training businesses and just business growth for personal trainers, which, there's not a lot of successful personal trainers. It's a very high dropout rate, failure rate. So we were very unique in the space. And then I moved into my love for consulting and marketing just kept growing, and I opened up my own digital marketing agency for a while, and then finally moved into No Standing, which is a global digital marketing agency specializing in performance marketing, Web3, community building, and innovation. So
it's a phenomenal business. No Standing. You've got so many amazing clients. I mean, I always like to quote, obviously, the fact that you guys work with Barcelona and a lot of the Premier League sides and the NFL teams. I mean that's from a sporting aspect. And then when you look at all the big F45s and stuff like that you guys work. I mean, it's something like 400 odd clubs, isn't it? Something like that out in Australia. It might be more than that now.
Yeah, F45 was a growing brand, and it had a few issues, but it's one of our bigger clients. And then we also work with just tons of gym franchises globally. F45 in that boutique space has really started popping off across the globe, especially in Australia. F45 had a big growth boom. Now there's a couple others that are in competition with it that are also having the same boom. And I'm sure you see the same thing in the UK, right? Boutique gyms are the new normal, or the new fitness normal. So I think boutiques are really taking over the scene of fitness in general.
I think the great thing about boutiques is that they're usually more cost efficient to open, so the barrier to market's a lot less. But the great thing is, because of the style of training it is, they're able to charge more and have less members, so the economics work better. You're not always you're not trying to chase 2,000 members to make your business profitable. I mean, a lot of these clubs are profitable at 200, 250, which makes a massive difference to the economics of the business.
Well, if you open up your own gym, you're going to be competing against the big box gyms, and the big box gyms work on volume. If you're opening up a smaller gym where you don't have the marketing budget, you don't have the brand authority, it's going to be much easier to gain 200 members versus 2,000, right? So, and you offer a much better service in terms of community, which is even becoming more and more apparent year by year, especially after the antics of 2020.
Well, I think you guys out there got hit a lot harder than we did. I mean, I think we thought our rules were a bit draconian, but the Aussie ones were horrendous. I mean, I remember speaking to Mel Tempest pretty much during it, and some of the stuff that was coming out, I can't remember where she's based. I think it's Victoria, something like that. But she was saying the laws were unreal. It was just not helping whatsoever. So
well, Victoria went through, I think, a year and a half lockdown, and the gyms were even locked down even longer than that. So at that time, if you're a personal trainer, your business is definitely going under. So there was, you had to either adapt or die in that sense. And there wasn't a lot of support for personal trainers, especially, and gym owners especially. So the online fitness space really started growing, especially in Australia. Hence why I actually moved into more of a consulting role and taking that significantly more serious, because Queensland especially didn't have a lockdown for that long, but Victoria was hit really, really hard.
In terms of the PT, because this is a really interesting one, obviously it's your main background, how you started. How much has changed from that moment that obviously you got into and expanded your business quite considerably? Did COVID really just wipe that out and everybody sort of went online and it's trying to now rebuild, or is it did it sort of try and maintain a steady state?
Yeah, well, the online fitness space was always growing, and I think during COVID, it really grew, and people had to think about this, like, what happens if this happens again? They realized how fickle their business might be, because you're at the mercy of the gym owners, or the government in that instance. But the online business, you can really be autonomous in your income and revenue, and no one can just cut you at the knees. So that's where people really started expanding. But the online fitness space, it is saturated, and while people think it's easy, it's cozy, you sit on a beach and make some sales, it's not that simple. And it has even a higher failure rate. And people are sold the dream on the online fitness space, but unless you're really willing to put yourself out there, especially in the social media game, you're gonna have a tough time.
I was going to say, because there's a lot of businesses. I mean, you only have to have a look at a lot of the, like, Peloton and companies like that obviously boomed during the pandemic, and then as soon as they made some risky investments, but they obviously collapsed almost after the pandemic. They almost saw the pandemic as their panacea. We're gonna take over the world, and you're like, going, no, you've got a bubble. Take your money and keep it and invest wisely. But they didn't. They thought that was going to be the new market. Do you think a similar thing happened with PT, or was PT able to sustain that growth after the pandemic?
Well, now it's the thing that people are yearning for more than ever is community, right? Like, look at the brands like School, LearnWorld, these kind of brands that are integrating community, like such a community aspect to life. We realized how important human connection was during the pandemic. And then as soon as the pandemic ended, where there was a super compensation effect on gyms, health, community, these things started growing. And that's why you're seeing the rise of boutique spaces, because you get that community feel. You go to the gym, you meet people, you get that human connection. And I think people started realizing it's more important than ever.
I think people also started realizing, I talk about this all the time, they're more likely to invest more money into their health before. Whereas before it was almost, let's go to the cheapest chips gym, because I can just train. Now, like you say, they want that community. They want more from their club, and I think that's why the boutique spaces are taking off. Like you say, they've got the community, they've got something different, and I think that's what people are seeking now. The pandemic almost made people go, actually, I need to be healthier. But also I want to be entertained. I want to enjoy the experience that I'm doing, and that's obviously driven the value of the boutique market.
And that's also, like, just in general, we're seeing community be such a thriving market, especially in marketing and what we do with these football clubs, with sport in general. You were normally just a spectator, right? You weren't so involved, especially if a big brand has all these fans globally. These fans don't really interact with each other, especially like someone in Nigeria isn't going to be interacting with someone in Japan. They might follow the same football club, but there's no real place that they can communicate. And that's the gap that we try to bridge. And that's where Web3 becomes so important. So that's really what Web3 is inevitable. This new evolution of the internet is going to happen one way or another, but it's going to bring people together, and it is bringing people together. And that's what we're seeing that clubs really want, because we don't want to be just spectators. We want to be in a community.
Now, you guys are at the head of all of this. I speak to Sohan from time to time, and he's telling me about some of the amazing stuff you do. Now, a lot of people in our space won't understand Web3 at all, so it might be a good time to explain what's coming. because it is coming. And we were speaking to Andy Hall, and it's definitely coming. It's just a lot of people don't really understand what it is.
Yeah, so Web3 essentially is the next evolution of the internet, like how we interact with each other digitally. You can think of Web3 really simply in terms of the metaverse, right? Like virtually, we're going to be able to enjoy a football game or a cricket game while actually being at the stadium. Now you think when you're thinking about metaverse, you're thinking about goggles, and that's virtual reality, and that's one element of Web3. But the other elements is augmented reality. We're thinking about community, Discord, Telegram. These community-based experiences is what is ultimately the real goal of all this. We're trying to connect people globally. While we are all connected in social media, we're still behind our computers, and we're not really getting that immersive experience. And that's what we're trying to change. How do the fans watch the game? How do they communicate with each other? How do they become closer to the brands? And this is a win-win for both the audience, the people watching the game, but also the brands themselves, because they're understanding more about what their customers want, or what their clients want, and then they're able to bring that to life. You can become close to the brand can become closer to you. Everyone's winning, and we're all getting that community, human experience that we so much crave.
And what are the sort of things I mean, you might not be able to say, but what are the sort of examples that you're working on with some of your clients?
Yeah, so one of the things we do is for like a Barcelona, there's so many fans globally. They're in every country. It's one of the biggest brands in the world, especially sporting franchises, right? So none of these fans can communicate with each other. They're all audiences, and Barcelona itself is, it's such a loyalty component to these brands. Like but when you're a Barcelona fan, or even a Manchester United, or any of these clubs, especially in the UK, you want to be associated with that club. You want to represent that brand. You want to talk to other people who are also part of that. So what we've done is we've grouped everyone together, created communities where they can interact with each other. We can understand them better. They can tell us what they want. We can then, we can essentially sell them or give them more experiences that bring them closer to the brand. They're no longer just a spectator. They're actually, they're getting more for everything. Like they're getting more resonance with the brand. So they could, I can't even say some of these things, but
No, I can imagine.
You'll see it over the next couple of months. But there's things that we are doing in the digital space that is bringing people close to the brand, helping them identify with the brand, but also just being a part of the brand and being able to enjoy that experience at a level that's no longer. If you want to watch a Barcelona game and be in the thick of it, you're going to have to buy a ticket to Camp Nou. But someone in, let's say, in Africa cannot do that, right? They can't afford to fly to Barcelona and see the game. But we're trying to bridge that experience as much as we possibly can in multiple elements for different socioeconomic classes, and make every sport feel immersive, whether you're there at the stadium or you're watching it from home or you're in front of your mobile or computer, whatever it might be. But we're trying to make it more interactive, make it seem like, hey, I'm watching this with people who I'm getting almost you can't ever get a similar experience, but I'm getting an experience close to sitting at the stadium. That's what we're trying to do.
I love the idea of, because I was when I was speaking to Andy Hall a few years ago, that we're talking about having things like concerts where instead of just watching it on your TV, you can almost have that immersive experience of the concert, but through either VR or augmented reality, and you're not actually there. So in essence, they could sell 100,000 tickets for Wembley for Taylor Swift or whatever, and you could almost then buy your virtual tickets as well. So you could still be almost at that event without actually having been there. And I just think that's incredible. And then you've got all the loyalty programs and stuff like that can run within that. So you've almost got an online presence for your business, and they can buy stuff, they can interact with the business there, and then those tokens could potentially be used in the real world back at the main stadium. And I just think the opportunities for it are quite significant. But it needs people like you and the clever tech guys to sort of work out. Well, the great thing you guys have got, you're amazing at tech, and you've got obviously the marketing background, your marketers as well. So you've got both, and it's sort of looking at it and going, actually, how can we take this amazing tech, improve the deliverability and the engagement, but also how can then we link that back to more sales? Because that's the difficulty, isn't it? Is creating all these great programs, but ultimately you want to be driving revenue through those platforms.
Yeah, well, you're not only driving revenue, people are actually able to get closer to the brand, and they can be able to get closer to other people who are also spectating the sport from their lounge. And the thing is, like, with sporting games, you have the most fun when you're watching it with friends, or you're watching it in a pub with heaps of people around you. How do we get that experience while you're at home, right? Like, how can we get people to interact? Because not everyone has that luxury, that extroversion to go to a pub and experience the game. How can we get these people to interact with the game itself while them and able to, like, talk to others, share their opinions, be heard, and ultimately just get a more immersive experience throughout every single game they're watching?
I do think it's incredible. It's a bit like I know they were looking at the online shopping. So you'd effectively, when you go and do your online retail shop, so Asda or whoever it is, you can literally walk down the aisles and pick your items off the shelves via these platforms, instead of just sort of looking on a picture. I want that bread or those. You can literally walk down the shelves and pick it up, and you just think that's quite smart. You think bit gimmicky, but when you look at it, and if the quality's there, it then creates an experience in that shop, and you can do all sorts of things with it. So the benefits could be, once it's all up and running and it's working properly, I think could be quite incredible as to what you can do.
That live shopping feature as well, that's something that TikTok's doing really well. And it's removing that just simple transaction to an experience while you're shopping, right? If you're shopping online, it's a transaction. You go to the store, you try on clothes, you look around, you talk to the teller, you talk to the salesperson, whatever it might be. You can bridge this gap, and TikTok's doing a really great job at bridging this gap. So bridging this gap becomes really effective, becomes only facilitated by the tech. And that's what the importance of tech is. It can bring us together in ways that we never thought possible. And we're going to be seeing that over the next months, years, and definitely decades.
Oh, absolutely. And what do you think because I know a number of gym chains, Tribe 3 got involved in it quite early doors a couple of years ago, in terms of having an online space and points that you could use in the real world and stuff like that. Do you think gyms are ready for that, or do you think we'll probably be on the sort of second, third?
No. Gyms are definitely ready for that. Like, so while the big trend is community, the trend with that is gamification. So if you can gamify something where, you get that dopamine hit, like when you're playing a video game, right? You increase levels, or you get new armor or new weapons, like whatever it might be. That's a small dopamine hit, and games do this brilliantly. You take this in the commercial aspect, or the real life aspect, where you can gamify your progress within anything. And Duolingo really captured this brilliantly. If you ever play Duolingo, you try to learn a language, the gamification of Duolingo is next level. That's why they've grown so effectively, because you're not only learning the language, you're leveling up. You're competing against other people. There's leaderboards. There's prizes. Like, this is the next evolution of education, especially because people, the drawback of something like a TikTok or an Instagram Reel, YouTube Shorts, is your attention span decreases a lot. And it's something that we have to really consider while marketing. Is you've got to have really good hooks to engage the audience, but you've got to be able to keep people on that video or that content. And that requires like jump cuts. It requires consistent camera changes, text popping up, like all these changes. And that's what we're going to be seeing with education. It's happening, and the best education platforms are doing that so effectively. And we're going to see gamification across all elements of not only education, but fitness, right? When you're on MyFitnessPal, for example, you have a streak. Now that's a gamification element. You go to a gym, you might have a leaderboard against your friends and family, right? I did 10,000 steps. I lifted X weight, right? Like I increased this much. I lost this much weight. My bicep grew bigger. Like these are the gamification elements that are going to be coming across with fitness. And it's not only when you gamify something, it's number one, it's more fun, but you're able to be much more consistent just because of how our biological hardwiring is, right? We need we're changing the dopamine, right? We're monkeys. So that's that utilizing that to really get positive results from any endeavor. When companies are starting to do this, it's changing how people interact with the platform, how they grow on the platform, how they progress, and how they just keep using it.
I mean, you only have to have a look at how MyZone do the community side of it, and I mean, there's no cleverness in it. In a sense, it's a really simple model. In you train, you get your MEPs, and you go up the leaderboard, and people fight to stay on that those various stages that they're on. You know what I mean? They make sure they go to train literally just to stay on the Hall of Fame and those sorts of things. And that's a fairly simple approach. And you just think, well, if you've got then all the tech behind you, like the Web3 that's coming, you think you can really ramp that up quite considerably in terms of what you can achieve.
Yeah, MyZone does a great job, and that's one of the reasons for their success. They've been able to gamify group classes, and we're going to see that just general fitness, right? Like you don't like gyms will start offering loyalty program for even basic things where you can start tracking things with Web3. And the more tech evolves, the more we're going to be able to track, if you want to track your movements or what you're lifting and all these things that, could result in rewards. It could result in cash. It could result in multiple things. It could result in more memberships, personal training sessions, like these sorts of things. This is the gamification, the element that is definitely going to happen in fitness. It's just a matter of time.
I think it's really important because the one big thing we're really poor as an industry is actually being able to track what our clients' performance. So they almost come in, we leave them to it. We might give them a program or whatever, but it's tracking that and keeping them on the right path. And we're not brilliant at that as an industry. We almost get the members in and leave them to their own devices quite often. There are some great clubs obviously that do it, but we're not the best at it. And I think if you can bring tech like this in, it then allows that to be a lot simpler process, because obviously they're signing up to it, they're participating in it because they want to, rather than us trying to get that data off them, off their various watch, phone, whatever it is. It'll just be in the system, which would be so much easier to manage.
Yeah, I don't know if there are probably multiple gyms that do this, but I know Anytime Fitness has, recently released Snap. I don't even know how long, maybe a couple of years ago or whatever it is. But that's where, that element comes. The gym is then providing this gamification element that people can then start interacting with other Anytime Fitness users, and that's going to just increase more and more where it connects to Apple. I think that app does connect to, your other devices, your Whoop, your Apple Watch, your Fitbit, whatever it might be. And then we're going to go into layers and layers of technology that really tracks us well, but tracks the metrics that become really important.
Oh, absolutely. I think understanding the metrics and then being able to track it, understand it, and then obviously get further progress is really important, and it's something that we're getting there. But I think these sorts of things will bring that on. Now, because you've got so much experience from nutrition stuff to personal training to obviously social media marketing. Now that's the one I want to pick your brains on next, because obviously social media marketing is pretty much, if you're not doing it, you're pretty much behind. Now, I guess from your experience, is it worthwhile, or is it better for someone to go, actually, we'll just employ someone like you guys to deliver it, rather than trying to learn it as a gym owner and get the experts to do it? Because there's always that quandary: do I do it myself, or do I get an agency to do it? What would you recommend?
One of the things, especially when you're a business owner and a gym owner specifically, you're going to wear all the hats. And as you start growing the gym, you want to start leveraging out the parts you're not the best at. And social media marketing is, it could advertising, organic socials, that is a whole skill set in of itself. Now, unless you're planning on dedicating 24/7 amount of time to organic or paid advertising, you're not going to be as good as you can be. So
Yeah.
it's better that, you know, you focus on what you're really good at and leverage out the other elements. And that could be in the form of an agency. One of the good things about an agency is they probably have a brand reputation. They probably have a track record of succeeding. And it's something you don't have to think about then, right? You can go, okay, I'm really good at networking, but my social media skills aren't that good. You're going to get significantly less ROI if you're having to do both. It's better to double down on what you're really good at, hire for what you're bad at, and that's where we come in, because you know, we are spending 24/7 researching this stuff, implementing, and knowing exactly what works. And you know, the more data you have, even if you're become really good at social media marketing, the data we have when we have all these clients versus what you can get by yourself is just not comparable. So that's the advantage of hiring for an agency, but it's definitely not the play at the start of your entrepreneurial journey or your gym owning journey. But I think the most helpful thing is understanding what you're good at. And if you are great at social media marketing, then just keep doing that. Hire for something else, hire for operations, whatever it might be. But realize what you're good at, hire for what you're bad at, and then just allow yourself the space and the time and the money to double down on what you can, and you'll succeed much more than wearing all the hats in a business.
Well, to be fair, it's like, obviously I work with you guys. You guys do the ad stuff for my agency, and it's one of those things I always looked at and gone, I could spend hours learning this and trying to get my head around it, doing whatever courses, but it just makes more sense to hire guys like you that just know what you're doing. And I would recommend all clubs do that. I mean, obviously it's budget dependent, but if you're gonna try and drive members into your club, you're competing with everybody in your area, and I think it's just one of those things now that if you're not putting ads out there, unless you're in a small community club, you're going to struggle to get traction. It is just a space where people are seeking to get their business.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's either you're going to acquire a client through time or money, right? So you really need to understand, do you have the money to go all in on ads, or are you going to play a time game where you have a runway where you can lose money month to month for 2-3 years, and you know, you can float that, and eventually you're probably going to make it work, right? Or do you double down, take the risk, put your eggs into the money basket and run advertising, you know, and then hire either an agency, or what we did was we created a software as well to run your advertising campaigns. And one of the things as well with advertising, like what I was talking about, hiring what you're good and bad at, we do the same thing in our agency. We a platform like Google, Meta, TikTok, we have specialists. We have team of specialists working on these, because if you're across even these three platforms, these main platforms, you can't be the best at them. It's impossible. They change so frequently. You need your finger on the pulse. So even us, we hire specialists that have their blinders onto these single platforms. That's what makes great marketing, specialists rather than generalists. And agencies really try to do this all in one method. And unless you're big enough to do that, which we are, you won't have the specialists that you need. So one of the things that, you know, as we grew as an agency, we started off having generalists, and now we're in the realm where we have teams of specialists on Meta, Google, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat. And unless you've got the resources to do that, you can't be the best at them. So that's something that we've really, even more recently, have really doubled down on, is getting specialists in the area, and then we're able to produce the best Google results, Meta results, right? And you can't compete with that.
And how often do their sort of algorithms change? How often have you guys got to be on the ball to make sure that those that you really, because I can imagine it's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. It definitely is. My specialty is actually in Meta, and Meta itself changes 2 to 3 months, and Google changes even more frequently than that. The Google advertising side, and the SEO side also changes. Now, the challenge with this is when these platforms change, they don't tell you they're changing, right? You have to figure it out. And unless you have unless you're running 20, 30 ad accounts, it's going to take you a week of realizing, why are my ads flopping, right? We're at a stage where in some of these platforms, we can know beforehand if something's going to happen, but we might not have the solution. And even if you contact Meta support, Google support, they're not going to give you the solution. They unfortunately don't even know on the bottom level with the customer support and the marketing pros, even what's changing. You've got to figure it out yourself. So I remember more recently, a couple months ago, Meta did a really big update, and I knew within the first hour, because we have enough data to realize, hey, something's up here. I don't know what, but something's up, and then we can make changes. And this happens across the Google, Meta, SEO, TikTok, and it just happens so frequently. That's why you need people who just focus on that, because unless you have your finger on the pulse for month to month, week to week, day by day, you're just going to end up losing a lot of money. Some of these changes are actually really, really big. Meta went through a massive change, I remember, in February for an entire month. And it was horrific. Meta's been actually a platform this year that's really struggled in terms of adapting, and the changes and the algorithmic changes. It hasn't been advantageous for any Meta advertiser, but Google is changing so frequently as well. But again, you just need the team of specialists.
What's the reason for their changes, Jude? What?
Yeah, so one of the things that I know Meta is specifically doing is trying to make things more autonomous. Like, you don't need as much skill in the technical realm of Meta to run advertising. They want to lower the friction for, your business owner who might not have the advertising skill to actually advertise. But in doing this, there's changes in the algorithm that they don't necessarily mean or don't realize that are happening. And there's just so many elements of this and these algorithms that they're trying to make things better, but in that pursuit, it changes what's working. And until you're starting to test and have this data to understand what's working, you don't always know. So this is the biggest challenge of it. And the ad platforms, at the end of the day, they want revenue, they want people to spend on them. They try to lower the barrier, but this also changes how the system ultimately works across the board, because platforms like Meta, Google, there's hundreds to thousands of different strategies you can use, routes you can take through a single ad or a single ad campaign. And this is one of the biggest challenges I've seen more recently, because if you thought you knew Google 6 months ago, it's a completely different game. And same with Meta.
Yeah, I've always struggled with Google, because you can get burnt so quickly. You can lose £1,000 without actually getting any leads. You know what I mean? It's quite if you don't know what you're doing with Google. I think Meta's a little bit easier to sort of fumble your way through if you had to, but Google, it's unless you've got an expert looking at it, you sometimes looking and go, and because I know didn't they launch a new sort of local business one, so it's a lot easier to, if you're almost like a small business, it wasn't as costly.
Yeah, they have launched things like local SEO and Google Business Manager and these sorts of things more recently. But Google as a platform, for you to be the Michael Jordan of Google, it's years, so much data, and the threshold of excellence is miles different from the beginner level. While Meta isn't as bad, I would think Meta versus Google, you need to be 10 times more skilled to be the Michael Jordan of Google versus Meta.
Yeah.
So Google because there's so many elements of Google. Google is not just Google Ads, it's search, display, YouTube, like Merchant Center, like all these sorts of things are taken into account. Google with Meta, there's much less moving parts, so it's much easier to master.
Yeah, and in terms of the sort of gyms that you guys are working with, what sort of things are working well at the moment? What sort of things would you say for people to avoid?
So yeah, in terms of gyms, I think it depends what kind of gym you are. If you're a small business, the biggest thing you're going to have to drive is community and experience, right? Every customer, they are the only customer. And you've got to be able to replicate that experience. And one of the biggest challenges with gyms, especially when you're starting out, they need to be founder-led. Small business gyms really struggle if they're not founder-led. And I've had this experience myself running studios and gyms and these sorts of things. If they're not founder-led, the passion isn't there. And that's what's needed ultimately at the beginning to really make any gym work.
I think you find that sometimes with some of the franchises. Some of the franchises I've worked with, they almost get sold a dream that they won't really need to be in the business, and I think they lose so much from that. In the sense that they're not putting themselves front and center as the owner. I think if you own a business like that, and even a franchise, in reality, it's an independent business. Yes, you get the support from the franchise, but it is an independent business, and you've still got to go out there and run it. And I think it's, if you can get out front and center and show what the values and what you're trying to achieve with that business, because it does come across a lot better.
Well, with buying a franchise, right, you're really trying to buy their marketing model and their brand authority. And only a handful of franchises really nail this, especially in the fitness space. And you're exactly right. They're sold a dream that, you buy into the franchise, it's easy, it's a done for you system. And it's often not the case, unfortunately. And you're left realizing like, oh my God, this is not, I could have done this myself. Like, I'm going to have to redo all the systems. I'm going to have to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. Now, the franchise should have done this in the first place, but a lot of times they don't. So you're left having to pretty much run your own studio without the brand authority, without the systems. You're going to have to make the systems up yourself. I've had this specific experience myself, and it's terrible. It's a really bad thing, but that's been happening with the franchise world. But some franchises, if you get the right one, it's important to do a lot of research on franchises. If you get the right one, it's good. But again, unless you've got a lot of money to burn at the start, you need to be founder led, so you're not burning a hole into your pocket while you grow the franchise. So this happened. I see running your own gym and owning your own franchise is very, very similar at the start. And really, franchise model works well if you have a lot of money and you can open up multiple franchises quickly. And you understand business, you understand what the franchise is actually offering you, and you're able to replicate. But small business gyms are, you get more autonomy, you get more creative freedom, you get more creative freedom with the marketing, especially, and what you can do in sales. But they really need to be founder led, and the experience that the customer has needs to be focused on more than ever, especially these days.
I mean, you probably see my post on LinkedIn. I think the customer journey is something we really need to focus on. I mean, you guys work hard on the automation side as well, in terms of making sure those messages are going out. How important is it that do you think for clubs to have that level of automation, so there is interaction going out with to the customers?
Yeah, well, the automation is replacing these hungry salesmen or these hungry gym owners, right? And that's the thing, right? Like, if you're dedicated to spend 18 hours a day pushing your gym, if you don't have that dedication to do that, then you need to replace some of those hours with automations, right? If someone comes in, are you going to manually send them an email? Are you going to manually call them 4 times afterwards and text them 5 times later? Like, if you're not willing to do that, you have to have automations in place. Otherwise, unfortunately, we're in a world of, advertising, marketing. The frequency becomes such a crucial factor. And like the average, it's around 7 times of advertising for people to click.
To take action,
to take action on something. So that's automation is replacing the need for, these follow-ups, the value adds, where with automation, if you are willing to work 18 hours a day, then the automation still is going to help you, because you can put that time somewhere else. And that's where the efficiency comes in. And that's the world of AI. That's what's happening with AI. So, AI is replacing a lot of the challenges of, writing out long emails and getting your message across in an efficient way. So these are things that we're seeing very frequently. We've got AI callers coming about.
I was just going to come on to that. That really does sound a different world. You know what I mean? You can literally get a computer to make a telephone call, and I think Sohan was telling me you can do it with your own voice. You could effectively copy your own voice, so it's me going out to a client rather than a random voice. And I just think it's scary.
Yeah, AI is getting very sophisticated to the point where you film yourself, you can replicate yourself talking, saying other things. Now, this changes the game for content creation, or even video sales letters or follow-ups, right? Like a client comes on board, you can personalize the message to them in a video message, and it's not even you doing it anymore, right? This is the element where we can even get really personal with people, because the time factor goes and it's replaced by AI. And that's one of the beautiful things of AI. But, you know, we might have a Terminator experience happening in next decades. Let's find out.
Well, as long as it happens after I'm in the hole, I really don't mind, because that is the next development, isn't it? Because it's almost going, okay, automation emails, text messages, great, but if you can now get a voice message going out, or a video that gets dropped into their WhatsApp, and it looks like the person they've just spoken to, it sounds like them. I mean, how incredible is that? That you almost wouldn't know that's not that person dropping the message to you.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, we thought you know, copywriters would get replaced, but it's starting to look like the creatives are going to start getting replaced with these videos, these images. You know, we're doing things with prompt to music production. Like the world is evolving so fast, and unless you're really in the space, you don't understand how quickly these things are changing and how fast the tech's evolving. And it's a hockey stick effect that we're getting right now, especially in technology, AI, and Web3.
Well, there's so much coming. I saw one the other day, which was quite amazing, because my kids love it. My kids are into singing and drama and stuff. And there's an app now that you can put your voice into the app, and it will actually sing any song you want, but in your voice. So you could take, my kids are into Taylor Swift, take the Taylor Swift song and sing it with your own voice, but it obviously makes it sound really good. And you're like going, actually, we don't even need artists anymore. All we do is write the song and let AI do the rest. It's just like, we'll just be sat at home with goggles on and not have to do anything.
Yeah, like Ready Player One. We're actually working on something that we're working with one of our bigger clients on prompt to music, right? And it's going to change how producers even produce music anymore. And the challenging thing with AI is there's no royalties, right? Even images are based on someone's artwork, someone's creative brain, right? And you can produce it, and the person who originally created that artwork doesn't get any credit, doesn't get any recognition, doesn't get any revenue. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to go prompt to music, and the music elements that are used, the artist then gets the royalties. So that's the element of, like, how can we essentially give these people credit with AI, and then you're able to mass produce, and people are still getting recognized. And that's the biggest issue with the creative part of AI, is people don't get the recognition, and the creativity of humans starts to get lost.
Well, it does, absolutely. And once you stop creativity, then even that just drips that down into all other sorts of society, doesn't it? If you're not careful in terms of just thinking for yourself, you don't need to. I mean, a lot of the stuff I do now, I just whack it into ChatGPT, tell it exactly what I want, and although the initial thought was mine, it creates pretty much the rest of it for you. Give it a quick check over to make sure it's in your tone, and away you go. It does make a big difference. I mean, I saw one in the music world not long ago that they were saying they got AI to produce every potential sound, because, you know, obviously how music's written, so that it would take away the issues of people getting sued for copyright and stuff like that if they reuse that tune or that certain part of the music. So they produced it, and then just went to the patent, obviously trademarked the whole lot, and just said now it's open to use for anybody. So no longer can someone say that I produced that tune, because it's already out there, and you just think, oh my lord, that's game changing, because now anybody can go and copy it. You know, they could use the same music and not be sued for it. So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting where that goes. Now, obviously, we're coming to the end here, Jude. Now, in terms of where you see the industry going, obviously you're quite close to the fitness industry, what you guys do, and how many clients. Where are you seeing the bigger trends at the moment in terms of developments?
Yeah, I think the biggest trends over the next few years are like I said, the community element's going to just get bigger and bigger. And then you're looking at hybrid training. So not only what's happening in the gym, it's going to be associated with what's happening outside the gym. So your nutrition, your steps, your lifestyle. That's where the gamification is going to happen in the gym setting. But then you've got the community aspect where you're going to be able to compete with other people in the gym. You might be able to compete with your family. These are the elements that are really coming in the technological adoption in fitness. And we're seeing that, with even machines, like Techno Gym is doing some cool things with how, how they track your reps, your sets, how that integrates with the rest of your gym routine, how that integrates with your real life experience outside the gym. So I think that's what's the trend in fitness is going to happen. And then also we're really seeing a recovery element of fitness coming about, right? Recovery, where you got your saunas, your ice baths, your cryo chambers. That is another element of fitness that is going to be seen in these big box gyms and is definitely going to happen over the next 5 years. That's for sure. You're already seeing, recovery studios pop up everywhere.
Absolutely.
To essentially integrate that as part of their experience. And then we're going to see the elements of
Oh no, I was going to say because you're really into your the nutrition side, aren't you? In terms of the IV treatments and stuff like that. I mean, that's the sort of other world to all of this, isn't it? In terms of how you better your body, or almost like biohacking.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was about to bring up. Yeah, biohacking it's revolutionizing the human experience, and human optimization is coming. It's there's a lot of charlatans, but we're working with a company, Biovate. They're massive in Australia, and they're doing some revolutionary things with top athletes. The enhanced games is coming. There's elements of this.
I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking.
Yeah.
I can't believe someone hasn't done that before. If anybody doesn't know, it basically they're allowing people to enhance their performance with drugs and so on, and to see where the human body can take us. I mean, some of the results are going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's this company that we're working with. We've been working with them from day one, and the things that they've come up with and the things that they've used, like that we've seen in the research, is next level. And it's not known about by Western medicine. Like when you age, your telomeres lengthen. The telomeres unravel, and then this is reversing that process at a genetic, not a genetic level, but at a cellular level.
Wow.
So you're anti-aging in that. And then we've got like the way, it controls stress, where you can control stress, where you can, you've got bioregulators where they essentially, you can reverse the damage in your lungs that smoking can cause very, very quickly, because this is like, you're essentially taking bovine, like the lung part of the like bovine, and ingesting that, and that's going straight to your lungs and repairing it at a level that's unheard of. So these are the things that are coming out in the biohacking space, and this is like the next evolution of of humans, because what you're seeing health just get worse, right? And it's the food, the water, the environment, like all these things are making our health worse. And what's going to have to come about this is, you have to eat, fresh food, or unpoisoned food, organic food, whatever it might be, and drink tap water and these sorts of things. But the next level is taking this stuff that's not, while Western medicine really only cures the symptoms, taking stuff that's preventative and being proactive about your health, understanding what you can do to optimize yourself, what you can do to make yourself better day by day, mental cognition, anti-stress, not prescription medication, stuff that works within the body, right?
I think it's so clever, because obviously the fitness world has always looked at obviously improving our body, but just through exercise and maybe healthy eat. But this just goes completely the other way, in the sense of you're going, actually, yes, you do need to be healthy. We're going to eat smart, but also what helps to improve this, like you say, at cellular level in terms of to the body. And you just think, well, if we can start doing that across the board, where will humans end up? because you're almost making Superman out of the average person, aren't you? Because you're just changing their body to the point that they'll live longer, they'll be stronger, they'll be healthier, and you're like going, actually, that's where we should be going, rather than the alternative that we've currently got, which is fill our kids full of sugar and drugs. And I mean, if you take that weight loss drug, for instance, now it's having some great results.
Ozempic, yeah.
It's the wrong way of doing it.
Well, the thing is, right, like with weight loss, this is a whole podcast in itself with weight loss, but ultimately people, when they're overweight, like this, the healthiest thing they can do is lose weight, right? And it's going to help it, it's going to be 80% of your improving your health is losing weight and getting to a healthy BMI. So why fitness is so important, why nutrition is so important. One of the things actually with the technological advances in biohacking and these sorts of things that are going to be coming out, Biovader is working on a digital twin where you can look at your biomarkers and go, okay, this is where my cholesterol's at, this is where my liver enzymes are at, and understand if I put this into my body, X, Y, and Z into my body, what's going to be the outcome of 5 to 10, 20 years. And you can understand that based on your current biomarkers and then what you end up putting into your body, and understand what that trajectory is and change it according to what you supplement with it and how you treat your body and what you eat, how you exercise, how you live your life. And this is where technology is going to start improving our lives. And it's that bridge that we're currently in and who's willing to make those drastic moves, because it's an ever growing space, but it's moving very, very fast.
I was going to say, how far off are we of it being sort of mainstream?
Biohacking?
Yeah.
Biohacking's actually become so big. People like, Andrew Huberman made it really big, where he talks about biohacking science and making science cool. And that's starting to come about more and more across across fitness, and it's going to expand into the general population. If you think about it, right, you spend, let's say, 100, 200 pounds a month on biohacking, supplements, peptides, whatever it might be, and you're getting that much more productive. You're feeling happier. You're less stressed. You're getting better sleep. Like, the ROI becomes like, why wouldn't everyone have this in their home? That's the element where I think this is going, and I think this is going to be in everyone's home. It's just about who's going to be able to do it. It's going to be the Apple iPhone, right? Someone's going to be the Apple iPhone of biohacking and human optimization, and that's why we're working with.
Do you think it'll ever fall into the normal food categories? Do you think it'll start? Will they put it into different food, or will it always be like a supplement?
No. It's definitely always going to be a supplement, because biohacking is really specific to the individual. You need to find out exactly what you need and take that, because a lot of this stuff, it's signaling parts of, let's say, your thyroid gland, right? Like over time, as you get older, your thyroid might signal less, but you have a natural upper limit and lower limit that you want to stay in between. And as you get older, your thyroid starts decreasing, the signaling starts decreasing. Now, if we target the thyroid to naturally signal as high as it can naturally, that's what we can do in every part of the human body. And that's what peptide signaling is all about. And as these peptides evolve, the signaling the targeting becomes way more specific. The signaling becomes more effective, and you need to take less and less, because they're so minute, so fine-tuned to knowing exactly where they need to go in the body.
That's incredible. And I tell you what, on that note, I think we'll leave it there, because that's I think it's a really exciting part of human growth, is this biohacking stuff, because it's biohacking. A word makes it sound like you're putting $1 million man with bionic arms and stuff, when actually it's just making the body work better through its own resources, isn't it? It's just sort of going, actually, this is what the body needs, this is how it works, we're going to give it more of that. And I think it's such a great expansion of where we're going. So one final question that I ask everybody, Jude, is in terms of, because obviously you've had a great career so far, and you're obviously not even that old, so you've got an amazing career ahead of you. What inspires you to do what you do?
What inspires me? I would say serving people and making people, enjoy life more. That's what I feel really brings me joy. And, I do that for my family, my friends, people closest to me, but I also do that with my clients. And
Yeah.
the more I guess I can reach, the more I can impact in a positive way. And that's what drives me. That's what gets me up every morning.
Awesome. Well, that's a great place to end. Really appreciate your time. If anybody does want to find out more about Jude and all the different projects that he gets up to, his LinkedIn details will be at the end of the end of the podcast. But I've really appreciate you coming on, Jude. I've really enjoyed that. There's so much information in there for people. So thanks ever so much for staying late in Oz to jump on with me.
Well, thanks so much, Ryan, for having me. I had a great time on this podcast.
Brilliant.